If you wait for your child to hit rock bottom, you may be waiting for a crisis you can't undo. Why are parents told to wait for an emotional or behavioral collapse before getting support? That advice, it's not cautious, it's dangerous, and it's something that parents regret, right? People come to me from all over the world and they're typically in a crisis. I love to get, people who are in a crisis, but a lot of times they've tried a lot and they're in a woulda, coulda, shoulda mode. And I never want people to feel like that, and I will never make people feel ashamed. But this is really about what are those red flags, and why is early intervention important? And I always say that nobody ever regrets getting help. They only regret when they don't. Where does this kind of advice to kind of wait and see come from? So it's sort of this old school mentality of they'll outgrow it. You might also get pressure from the people in your ecosystem. Just give it time. It could be a grandparent, it could be a friend, it could be your partner, it could be even your pediatrician, right? I certainly have heard parents tell me, particularly with autism, I feel like it gets missed when, even in cases where it's like sort of a red, lights are behind a kid saying, like, this is autism. And of course, we always wish our kids are neurotypical, but our kids aren't. Mine aren't. And it's okay too. And the earlier you intervene, the more we can regulate. I think there's also a fear about overreacting or labeling or doing too much too soon. I see this as a huge conflict point in couples. I would say that 80% of the couples that come to me are not even in agreement about what their kid has. And that's why people come to me, because they want a brain map. They want that evidence. If you want to work one on one with me, I would encourage you to, because I'm not doing this that much longer. And you can go to drroseann.com/help. It's our solution matcher. And, when people have a brain map with me, it's a pretty unbelievable experience, because it's that marriage of that high level experience of the brain map with 33 years of clinical experience. So it's not just understanding the brain. You can get a brain map a lot of places now. It's the experience of the strategy and what to do with it. And I love doing that. Call if you want to do that. And there's also cultural beliefs around kids' issues, even within segments of the United States. You live in the South, or you're a part of this religion, or you're in this neighborhood. There's different ways that people act, and there is a cultural effect on, do you get help and when? Why is waiting for your kid for the poop to hit the fan a bad idea? When you wait, the dysregulation gets deeper, the problems get deeper. There's a whole lot more to untangle. Okay. You also can have things like increased, behavioral issues that are more extreme: school refusal, just complete shutdown, aggression, anxiety. All of those things can lead to outside components getting involved. I know a lot of my kids with serious issues, their parents wind up homeschooling them because they're too dysregulated to learn, but also because of fear of outside influence. I get that. I've been there myself. Waiting can really damage relationships, particularly partners. It certainly can affect the child's self-esteem, can affect trust between you and your child. The more dysregulation, the harder it is for you to regulate, and that's going to cause a lot of friction. Brains become harder to rewire the longer you wait. Not impossible, but you will have to do things like PEMF and neurofeedback, straight therapy, and all these other things. They're not even going to have a chance if you're that dysregulated. And then, of course, I think the thing that I see doing the most damage and what happens to kids is shame. They develop these deep feelings of internal shame. I see it with even young kids. So the longer this goes on, the worse kids feel about themselves, the harder it is to change. It is so clear, kids and families do really well with me. And I am never afraid of a hard problem, but we actively screen parents who aren't ready out, because in the same way that shame affects kids, mindset about their kids' problems affect the treatment outcomes. When you get a parent who's like, yeah, okay, this is the problem and this is how we're going to address it and it's going to be okay, they will change. I can have a child with 1/4 the issue not change because of parents' mindset or shame and different things holding them back. So it's important that inner garden does impact you. And, when we regulate, all of that can improve, but it doesn't mean we don't need a lot of support on the inside for therapy. Like I said, by the time families call me, they are often in tears saying, I wish I had done this sooner. And you shouldn't wait until everything falls apart getting your kid help. Today should be the day you get help and find the right provider. What happens when you actually do intervene early? Regulation skills are easier to build, right? When kids are mildly dysregulated or have periods where they're not dysregulated, that's when we want to get in there with the learning. I tell all the families who work with me, we typically do about 40 sessions of neurofeedback. Some people do more depending on what's going on for a variety of reasons, but usually it's because they like what they see and they want to work on other things. But most of my kids are too dysregulated to do talk therapy in the beginning, even if I have their parents going to therapy or coaching, they may not be able for their child to really do deep things. Well, once you regulate, that nervous system starts allowing learning to happen. It's pretty amazing. So that happens in the most dysregulated kids. So I don't want you to feel like, well, my kid's 17 and he's super dysregulated, I should give up. Absolutely not. I'm the internal optimist. We use science. This is what I'm here. This is why I'm doing. I'm showing you what worked with my family and thousands of others so that you can help your kid regulate. So when we regulate and we intervene early, it builds better trust, better communication, even for kids that have ongoing dysregulation. Boy, there's something magical that then happens when that trust is there, and then you can talk about things because that's how you build those micro skills that turn into macro self-regulation going forward. When we intervene early, we prevent misdiagnosis. I feel like we also prevent multiple shopping cart diagnosis. We avoid a lot of trauma and social isolation, and you interrupt the cycle before it becomes chronic. And of course, you change generational mental health patterns. We create generational emotional strength and that we can pass on to the future generation. What does intervention and early intervention actually look like? Your kid is struggling, maybe they're mildly struggling or medium or extreme. It doesn't matter where they are. Everyone always asks me, like, should I wait until my kid is regulated before I start PEMF or neurofeedback? Hell no. Get started today. It's designed for the most dysregulated individuals. And the cool thing about neurofeedback, it kind of like sucks you in. So when you're doing it, your brain loves how it feels, even if you can't on your conscious level know that it's working. Your nervous system knows that it's working. So you'll sit and regulate. I have kids that like have never been able to sit start out, doing, very young kids, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and in a very short amount of time, be able to do 20 more minutes of neurofeedback sessions or about a half an hour, 2 to 3 times a week. And we do have equipment that we send home. Again, you can go to drroseann.com/help. And that's our solution matcher. And you'll get matched to working one-on-one with us if you're ready. But what are tools that help? So we have nervous system supports like PEMF, neurofeedback, minerals like magnesium, those co-regulation techniques. Parenting shifts, our CALMS protocol breaks down those 5 parts of what you need in order to help your kid regulate, right? And you can see the CALMS protocol right here. And, certainly working with the school. Now, school is a collaboration. They're not there to do your job. They're not there to do all the therapy. That is still on you. We put too much on schools and then we get mad at school. Now, if your kid only dysregulates at school and has no other issues anywhere at home or with other kids and any other things, then you probably have a kid with a learning issue or some other thing, or the school is not the right environment. Then you need to sit down. Early intervention can also be just getting a brain map. A lot of times, I have majority of people don't have have diagnoses or they have unclear diagnoses. So this becomes a point of clarification, of education, and strategizing with me on what to do next, right? And certainly one of the biggest things that I think people miss, educators, parents, professionals, is that we are focusing on progress, not perfection. So every little micro win is a step towards learning. If it's not 100%, doesn't mean we're not successful. People get so hung up on that. We need to teach the brain that all these little steps are working in the right direction. Calm brains don't just magically happen, they're built, right? Kids aren't born regulated, they learn. And you're there as a parent, and all the adults around them are helped to guide them to those all important self-regulation skills. What's your action step? So if you've been waiting for things to get bad enough, stop. Okay. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What's holding me back from getting my kid proper help? Because what I'm doing isn't working. Right. And think about that and look at yourself as to what that is. Because that's not an easy answer, and everyone's answer is different. And maybe it is you can't find the right help. Maybe financial is a part of it. Maybe your spouse is a jerk. Maybe you're just unsure, right? Maybe you're real hung up on a diagnosis. I don't know. Maybe you think the school should do it, but think about it. And then think about what's one small step can I start today to help my kid regulate. The first step is the C in comms, and that's co-regulate. Everybody should be doing that. That means you're taking time to regulate yourself, and you have a dysregulated kid, and we do the hardest job in the world, parenting, and nobody prepares you for it. That's what this is all about. That's what my next book's all about. Can't wait. And so don't wait for your kid to hit rock bottom. Start where you are, and the sooner your child gets help, the sooner you get help, the easier it is to turn things around. And, share this episode with your partner, with your friend, somebody who's stuck in a wait and see approach. And I hope this inspires you to take action.
For insights and solutions, we'll subscribe to our Dysregulation Insider, and it will show up in your inbox every week.